Welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to do a Beyond Light review. I am still sick, by the way, if anyone's wondering, but I'm at the point now where I can actually sit up, so I thought I would record this as I've been playing Beyond Light while I've been sick in bed. Now I just want to say that this is my first impressions of Beyond Light. It may become a better game post raid and changes they make throughout the season, but this is solely based on my first playthrough of the story and all of that kind of stuff. I do have to say though that this is an absolute testament to Bungie that, you know, during their development cycle and having to work from home due to COVID, to see what they have done with Beyond Light is literally nothing short of a miracle, and, you know, just fair play to all the people who were involved in developing this DLC. And with those limits and restrictions, I think it shows that beyond Light, there is like real potential for some growth, some change, and with the new engine that, you know, maybe hasn't been fully utilized yet. I do think this is a good solid DLC, but ultimately it's just more of the same. You know, a few weeks ago I got absolutely hated on for suggesting that there is nothing new or unique or special, and I had people literally telling me to kill myself and just talking about how trash I am, and just, you know, just people generally being horrible in the comments. So I said, you know, after 3 months people will be complaining about the very same things that I am, and it only took one single day for other content creators to echo my sentiments, except they literally got no hate. You know, it's weird, right? But, you know, let me talk about the things that I liked and disliked in no particular order. Outside of the game itself, it runs amazingly well on next-gen consoles. It's quite impressive, to be fair. And like the new UI is clean, dark mode and the direct all look incredible. You know, great choices in terms of design. Very, very impressed with that. Stasis in general for PvE, the usage of it and the sounds are satisfying as hell. They may need a little bit of sound balancing for the stasis subclass itself, because sometimes it's just way too apparent and way too noisy, but overall it's an incredible experience using stasis. Now the story for me was way too short, but it was interesting. It was a good story, good enemies, you know, communing for the powers was new and different. But, you know, why are the stranger, Eris and Drifter there? Like, all they literally did was sit around and play in the snow. That's literally all they did. And, you know, through trailers and stuff, and the hype up to the game was that those 3 characters were going to Europa, and then they'd just literally do nothing for the entire time except point you where to go. You know, when I first started playing on Europa, I was just like, oh god, this looks so plain, it looks so boring, it looks so barren. And I guess, you know, when you're looking at a wasteland like Europa, that's what you want in a place. But then I thought, it's just not interesting, it's uninspiring. But, you know, the more I played, the more I grew to like it, especially with all the cave systems, all the places you go to on missions, like Bray Exoscience, for example. You know, all of those little areas are incredible looking, and the aesthetic is just beautiful and is really well designed. So for me, the surface of Europa is just boring and crap, but everywhere else throughout Europa is really, really well designed and interesting. You know, the dynamic changing weather is amazing too, but it's also frustrating at the same time, because you literally can't see anything half the time. But it is fun, and it's definitely immersive as well. You know, being pushed around by the wind is something new that we've never experienced, and, you know, this is a risk that they've taken because they didn't need to put this into the game. And, you know, I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting, and I think they did a good job with the immersive and dynamic weather. You know, to be able to go back to old Destiny and the nostalgia that's there, and seeing all the little different changes that they've made there, like lost sectors and such things, I think they did a really good job of really keeping Cosmodrome what it was supposed to be, but making changes to bring it into Destiny 2. I think they did an incredible job. Speaking of incredible, I think the voice acting in this DLC was unbelievable, especially Aramis. But the one tiny little thing that really bugs me is Varix. Like, he's so iconic and his voice is so legendary. He doesn't need anything in the game to make him stand out. And that stupid little click that he does at the end of every sentence was just so apparent and in your face that it just made me want to switch off and not listen to Varix. Now, I can't remember if he did this in the original Destiny, but if he did, it wasn't as apparent as it is in this game. And I was really, like, half the time like, why does he do that? Because he doesn't need to do that. He's Varix, for crying out loud. Cutscenes were also incredible, especially with the Fantastic Three fighting the Fallen before they went to play in the snow. And, you know, all the other cutscenes throughout the game are really cool. You know, there's a lot of really good, interesting cutscenes. But now we are at the crux of my problem with Destiny, the game loop. So everything in this whole DLC is nothing new. So, you know, you have relay missions where you go and place 3 things down to create comms. You know, you stand in one area holding it down and killing hordes of enemies. You know, other times you're shooting those little square boxes to open barriers. And yes, these things are in the game and we know how they work, but is it really that difficult to invent at least one new mechanic? Like, having these same old things repeated over and over again, it just becomes boring. Nobody really likes the idea of, oh, we have to shoot that box to open the barrier, because ultimately it's just an extra step that isn't needed. You kill all the enemies in the room and then you have to shoot a box to open the barrier. Why not just have the barrier open? But I guess Destiny is always just going to have those things in the game, and while I can hate it as much as I want, I also can't change what's happening. But I just do think that they just need to do something new, something unique, and just take out the monotonous, boring things that we've been doing for the past couple of years. Just a quick little, like a little side mission here in terms of the commentary. I don't understand why Destiny does this, and I don't know whether it's because their AI is bad or because, you know, their scripted enemies don't know how to utilize their moves properly. I don't know, but half the time you fight these big ass bosses, you know, they're like 20 foot, you know, got all these super power moves, and then every time you fight them or start a fight with them, they teleport to another room and don't fight you. They run away, and it's just like, if I was that big and I was that powerful, I wouldn't be running away down the road every 5 meters. You catch up with them and then they run away again, and then that puts up a barrier, and then you're just fighting hordes of enemies all the time. So the actual, it's like pseudo challenge. Like, they've put this in there to be like, oh, you know, our bosses really aren't that great, so we're going to have them show up and then run away. So you have to fight loads of enemies as, you know, challenge, and I say that with quotation marks. And then it just keeps happening until you finally fight the last boss and destroy him, because it's not that difficult. And I don't know whether that's an AI thing or they just don't have, you know, I don't know, inspiring ways to create bosses. But it's really frustrating, because it's just like, they're supposed to be these big ass badass bosses and they're always running away. Like, oh man, it's just so infuriating. Now, I know this can be a problem in PvP, and, you know, I'll talk about that in a second, but being frozen makes the game more challenging. So when you're fighting bosses who can, you know, freeze you, it is more challenging. You know, you have to think, you have to move, you have to figure out how not to get caught in that ice, but it can absolutely be broken and ridiculous. So like, you're fighting a boss and there's like 3 or 4 enemies around you, you get frozen instantly through a wall, and then all 4 of those enemies just kill you instantly, and then you have to restart the fight from, you know, scratch. It's so irritating. It's like they haven't got that balance down right of, you know, the mechanics versus how ridiculously broken it can be. Also as well, just another little side thought, I love the sunshot. The sunshot in this kind of like DLC just seems so nice to use, you know, fire against ice, and it was just such a cool ass gun. You know, I highly recommend you playing with the sunshot through PvE. It's pretty cool. And I guess looking at something like the sunshot really points out one of the problems. There is an absolute lack of loot in this DLC. You know, if you've got the season pass, you get duality straight away. If you've got, I think it's the season pass, and then you finish the story, you get the no time to explain as well. So you get 2 exotics pretty much off the bat without having to do anything. And then a lot of other exotics are time gated, which to me is just dumb. It really is. You know, most people who start the game now and just go crazy on it is because they want to get enough power to do the raid. But not everyone is chasing power to do the raid. You know, we want to just have cool shit and do cool stuff. And if people weren't chasing power right now, there would be nothing else to do in the game. And that's a problem, because right now it's just a race to get ready for the raid, but there's really nothing else in the game right now to do, to have fun with, to enjoy, to experience. It's just all about, oh, gotta get my power. And that kind of sucks to me, to be honest, because I want to be like, you know, I don't want to rush to get my power. I want to just chill, do some new, cool, fun things, but there is nothing new and cool in this whole DLC so far anyway. You know, it's all going to be time gated, and that kind of sucks. So I kind of have just 2 more things to talk about. PvP, I mean, you can just go on Twitter and see the clips. As I said in one of my reviews, I've said, you know, we just have to see how stasis works in PvP, and it is absolutely broken. It is ridiculous. Like, it just makes PvP not worth playing right now. And yeah, they're probably going to balance it and sort things out, but right now it's awful. Like being able to just freeze people instantly, you know, and have time to do an emote in front of them and then kill them instantly. It's ridiculous. The grenades are way too good, way too powerful, and the supers are also the same. Like the Warlock stick, I think, can hit through walls. Like it's just stupid. Like it really is. It's like they didn't even play test it before putting it out into the DLC, and that just is not good at all. And I think the last thing I want to talk about is the strike and how fucking awful the new strike is. You know, everybody throughout the past however many years of Destiny hates excessive voiceovers and strikes. It's one of the most complained things about in the game when it comes to PvE, is that, you know, the talking and the constant just bad kind of voiceovering in them, it's just bad. And this new strike is literally just a conversation between Varix and Eramis, and yeah, their voice acting is a lot better than most of the previous strikes, but it's just it's basically you're just listening to them to have a conversation throughout the entire actual strike, and then when you get to the end of the strike, you don't even fight Eramis. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then you also fight the same bosses that you fought through the story, except they're shit tier and weak, which makes no sense whatsoever because we already know how powerful they are because we fought them already. And then the last boss is possibly the slowest and most frustrating boss I've ever seen in my life. And it's that same thing where it's kind of like pseudo challenge, where they have these mechanics which will extend the fight dramatically when it doesn't need to be. So for instance, the big Hydra comes out with a little Hydra, and you do enough damage to him and he disappears, and then waves of enemies come at you, and then you kill them all, and then there's a little Hydra, you kill him or do damage to him, he disappears, then they come back, you do it all over again, and you have to rinse and repeat this process about 6 times, and each time it disappears, more difficult enemies comes, like those stupid harpy tools or whatever you call them. I think probably out of all the strikes I've played over Destiny and Destiny 2, this is by far the worst strike ever. And it's just like, instead of making it a challenge and making it interesting, it's like, oh, we'll make him disappear every 2 minutes and then they can fight loads of enemies and then do more damage to the boss, and then we'll make him disappear again and then they can fight more enemies, oh, and then we'll make him disappear again. And it's just like no, that's not good, that's not fun, that's not interesting. Now, to sum up, I genuinely think this is a good solid DLC. I have a lot of gripes with certain aspects of the DLC myself personally, and I think that, you know, they really should have taken more risk and introduced new mechanics and different things that we've never seen before, instead of rinse and repeat the same kind of mechanics we've had for many years. I think the introduction of Europa and Cosmodrome were great. I think it worked. I think it, you know, it's a good addition to the game, even if for me Europa seems kind of bland, but then again, like I said, all the cave systems and mission areas are incredible. I thought the story was great. I thought the voice acting was incredible too. And I have to say, there's probably more positive than there is negative within Beyond Light, but for me, there's just nothing that grabs me and makes me think, oh, I want to come on every day at 6 o'clock and do all the bounties. There just isn't anything like that with Beyond Light. I don't want to play the game. I don't want to sit there for 16 hours and play and level up. You know, maybe that's just me growing out of Destiny, but, you know, back in the day, in other, even in Forsaken, even there was a need and a want to jump on and do things. And I just don't think Beyond Light has that, at least yet, because we don't know what changes they're going to make throughout the season. But for the most part, I do feel like this is a good DLC, just not for me for most of the aspects within the actual DLC itself. So will I be making videos on Destiny? Probably, but it'll be few and far between, and maybe if we get some God Roll weapons and stuff like that, you know, potentially. But I might even do some kind of rage moments in PvP with Stasis, because I'm assuming that's going to cause a lot of rage. I don't know, I haven't really thought about it, but that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the DLC down below in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching. I've been easynow. You guys have been awesome.